All right, so unit rate. So this right here, y'all know what a rate is? You should have heard a rate before. Can you think of when you would use rate? Not quite. Maybe. Normally when we talk about rate, we're talking about speed. Like if you say the rate at which you ran, we're saying how fast you ran. Usually rate means speed, okay? But really, it's just a special ratio. It's a special ratio that involves quantities, or that has quantities. I'm trying to shorten this definition a bit. That aren't measured the same way. Okay, so whenever I compare two quantities that have different units, for example, speed. Speed is the most common rate that we talk about. When I say how fast were you driving in your car, what units do we use there? Miles per hour, okay? So miles per hour is a rate because we've got miles, which is a kind of unit, and then hours, which is a different kind of unit, okay? So anytime you see a rate, we're just talking about two things that have different types of units. And usually we're talking about speed. Not always, but a lot of times we are. Okay, so for example, let's say you rode your bike 40 miles in 2 hours. I don't know if that is possible. I don't know if that's, I really don't know. I'm not a bike rider. Okay, so I just kind of made this up. But if you did ride your bike 40 miles in 2 hours, geez, that just seems like an awful long time. But maybe, I don't know, made it up. What we would have here is we would have a rate that was 40 miles in 2 hours. Okay, so that's literally all a rate means. When you take a ratio and they have different units, we would say 40 miles in 2 hours, or 40 miles per 2 hours, or something like that. Now, a rate can have any numerator. Remember, numerator means top. It can have any numerator and it can have any denominator. But what we're talking about today is the unit rate. So this is a bit more specific. And this is the last definition we're going to write. A unit rate has a denominator of 1. And remember, denominator is the bottom of a fraction. It's the bottom number of your fraction. Okay, so this right here is not a unit rate because it doesn't have a denominator of 1, it has a denominator of 2. Okay, but I could take this exact example, okay, the example above, and if I take 40 miles in 2 hours and I reduce it, what does 40 over 2 reduce to? Does anybody know what 40 divided by 2 is? 20. So it actually reduces to 20 miles in 1 hour. And think about it. If you rode 40 miles in 2 hours, that's about the same as riding 20 miles every 1 hour. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we wouldn't write it like, or we would write it like this, but we would say If you rode 20 miles in 1 hour, we would say you were riding 20 miles per hour. So in words, we would say 20 mph. Y'all have seen mph before. That's your speed. Okay, this is a unit rate. You use a unit rate every single day when you're driving down the car or riding down the road in the car or driving, or I don't know if any of you guys drive yet or not. Okay, so a unit rate is whenever you take your rate and you reduce it. How do you reduce it? The easiest thing to do is just type it in the calculator. Okay, in the back or up here, I don't even know who did it. You type this in. This is division. 40 divided by 2, it gave us 20, so our rate is 20 miles per hour. Okay? All right, so I want to look at several examples of this today, and then we're going to practice it. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of give you some situations, and we're going to find the unit rate. Okay, and it doesn't have to be speed. I want you guys to know that. It doesn't have to be speed. A lot of times it is, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, let's say you jumped 55 jumping jacks in 3 minutes. Again, I don't know if that's possible. I'm sure it is. I could do it in 1 minute probably. Maybe. It's been a while since I did any jumping jacks. I'm getting up there in age. But probably I could. Huh?
Aren't you like 28?
Yes, I am.
That's not old.
I'm getting up there, man. My knees say otherwise. Okay, so if I wanted to find the unit rate here, okay, what you want to do is you want to take your 55 jumping jacks, I'm going to abbreviate, 55 jumping jacks, and divide it by 3 minutes and see what that reduces to. So in the calculator, you're literally just typing in 55 divided by 3. I got one handy. Okay. And that's going to happen. Sometimes you're going to get a number that doesn't reduce evenly. You get a decimal. That's okay. What this means is if you do 55 jumping jacks in 3 minutes, that's the same as doing about 18 1/3 or 18.33 in 1 minute. So this reduces to 18.33 jumping jacks per 1 minute. That is your unit rate. You would say you do 18.33 jumping jacks per minute. Okay, so speed is a common rate. The other most common rate is whenever you're talking about the price of something, okay? The price per unit. Okay, so let's look at an example that has a cost in it. All right, let's say we have an 8 ounce, OZ is the abbreviation for ounce, bag of chips. Costed me $2.50. And I want to know the unit rate here. Now, again, the unit rate is whenever you just divide your two numbers, okay? Now, when we're talking about the cost per ounce, we're going to put our price over our weight. Anytime you're doing something involving a cost, you put your cost on top, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put $2.50 over my 8 ounces. Now, obviously I can't type ounces into the calculator, that's just my units. But I'm going to type in the calculator 2.50 divided by 8 and see what it gives me. Okay, so it gives me this right here, 0.3125. That number goes on top, 0.3125. Your denominator becomes 1. Now listen, whatever units you had over here, if this was dollars on top, dollar stays on top. If it was ounces on bottom, ounces stay on bottom. Think about this with me. $2.50 is written like this. How would we say this? How much money is this? 0.3125. Anybody know? It would be about a third of a dollar, which we don't, when we talk about money, how many decimal places do we have? We have two numbers after the decimal place, right? When we, like right here, we said $2.50. We have two numbers after the decimal. You don't write money with 4 decimal places. You only write it with 2. So we would need to round this. So we would need a round right here. Because this is a 2, this is going to stay. So this is about 31 cents per ounce. That's how you would say that. This would be 31 cents per ounce. Okay, remember, anytime you're talking about the cost of something, you just have 2 decimals. So that's why we got rid of those. We don't need those. Okay, any questions about this? All we're doing is just dividing our numbers. Let's look at a similar example. Let's say I went to the grocery store and I found this, an 8-ounce bag that cost $2.50. But let's say I also found a 16-ounce bag of chips that cost $4. Okay, if I want to find the unit rate, we're just going to take our price or our cost and we're going to divide it by our weight. So we're doing $4 divided by 16 ounces. Anybody do 4 divided by 16? What did it give you? So what that means is 25 cents per 1 ounce. This means every ounce of chips is approximately 25 cents. Okay, that's what this unit rate means here. Yeah, they do. Most food is measured in ounces. So this is what it looks like mathematically. In words, we would say this is 25 cents per ounce. Now think about these 2 different situations here. Say both of these were in the grocery store. I went in the grocery store and I saw this small bag of chips for $2.50, a slightly bigger bag of chips for $4. Which one of them is the better deal? The bottom one is, right? The less you pay per ounce, obviously the better off you are. Even though the cost is more total, I'm getting double the amount of chips, okay? But not double the price. Does that make sense? Okay, when you're talking about a unit rate, you're talking about how much per whatever. In this case, we're talking about cost per weight. All right, let's do just maybe 2 or 3 more of these. Unit rate is the best way to compare things, like we were just comparing those bag of chips. When you guys get older and you're going to the grocery store and you're shopping for things, if you'll notice, the off-brand stuff is usually cheaper. It usually has a cheaper unit rate, okay? That's the stuff I buy. Also, things that are usually in bulk, like a gallon of milk has a cheaper unit rate than a half gallon of milk. Do you have a question? Turn the calculator off and turn it back on. All right, so let's do another situation. Let's say we bought 28 pencils for $5.
Did you
Say you bought 28 pencils for $5. Okay, and I want to know the unit rate. Now, you almost always, I take that back. You always put your money on top, okay? So we're going to put the price over the amount of pencils. So in this case, we paid $5 for 28 pencils. That's my rate. If I want to know this is my rate right here, okay? If I want to know my unit rate, I need to divide those. 5 divided by 28. You get a pretty long decimal, right? Now remember, when we're talking about money, we're only going to have 2 decimals, okay? So this 7, we need to decide, does that 7 need to stay a 7 or go up? It needs to go up because this number's an 8. So we're going to do, this is going to be 0.18. Remember, when you're doing this, you're reducing, and your bottom number is always going to become a 1. This is your unit rate. How do I say this? $0.18. We don't say $0.18, do we? We say 18 cents. So this is approximately 18 cents per pencil. That's what this whole situation up here is talking about. Does this make sense to you guys? I want to make sure I'm simplifying it as much as I possibly can. If I bought 28 pencils for $5, that comes out to about 18 cents per pencil. That's what this means. All right, let's do 2 more examples where we find the unit rate and then we'll stop. Let's say I bought 3 concert tickets for a total of $240. And I want to know the unit rate. I want to know the cost per ticket. Okay, that's the unit rate here would be the cost per ticket. So, what am I going to put in the top of the fraction? 240 or 3? 240. Remember, your money always goes on top. Divided by 3 tickets. Which is 80. So what that means is it is $80 per ticket. This right here means $80 per ticket. Each ticket was $80, which that makes sense, right? If it was 3 tickets for $240, 240 divided by 3 is 80 each. Okay, one more. This one's not going to be talking about money. Let's say you drove 152 miles on 7 gallons of gas. Okay, in here, I want to know, this is called your MPG. If any of you guys pay attention to your parents, they probably talk about their miles per gallon. The more miles per gallon you get, the better, the less money you pay on gas, basically. So I want to know the miles per gallon. We call this the MPG. This is a pretty big selling point. So, what are we going to put on top of our fraction? When you see it written like this, miles per gallon, this number goes on top. So we're going to put 152 miles on top, and then 7 gallons on bottom. And then see what 152 divided by 7 is. All right, so let's just stick with the rounding to the second decimal place. So this 1, does it need to stay a 1 or go up? Stay a 1. So we're going to say this is about 21.71 miles per 1 gallon. Or in other words, 21.71 miles per gallon. Think about this. Do me a favor, think about this. This needs to make sense. It doesn't just need to be something that you're just typing in. If I get about 21 miles every gallon of gas, and I used a total of 7 gallons of gas, 7 times 20, what's 7 times 21.71? What's this number approximately?
About
151.97. That's basically 152 miles. Okay, because we rounded here, that's why we didn't get exactly 152, but this is almost 152. That's what that means there, okay? Write this one thing down for me. I want to write down a helpful hint when you're doing unit rates. Okay, 2 things that will be helpful for you. If you have money, if money is in the situation, you put your dollars on top of the fraction, okay? Or if you have time in the situation, time goes on bottom, usually. Okay, now if there ain't any money in the situation or no time in the situation, then you just really have to pay attention to how it's written. For example, right here, this is written miles per gallon. This number goes on bottom, this number goes on top, okay? But if it's a situation that has money in it, you almost always put money on top, okay? If it's a situation that has time, you almost always put time on bottom. All right, let's practice this.